When I first started looking for a Porsche 996, the reason I went for the one that I eventually purchased was not only because it came with an absolutely awesome factory aero kit on it, but also that it came with a near 2-inch thick folder of maintenance records. And it has shown me that the car has been well looked after mechanically over the last 10 to 20 years. However, the same can't be said for the paint and the bodywork, unfortunately. With it being 26-year-olds, it was showing its age. There was various car parking dings across the doors, the road rash along the bottom of the bumper was pretty rough, and due to the pretty harsh Scottish weathers that we can have, as well as the salt that we put on the road, there was minor signs of rust starting to appear. So I sent it off to a company called Panel Perfect to give the bodywork the same amount of love that the mechanicals had had over the last 5 to 10 years, 20 years or so, to ultimately bring the standard of the car up and increase the quality of it. So I sent it off to Panel Perfect, and the guys there, as they started to take parts off of it, quickly realised that the rust that was on it was a little bit worse. You know what these things are like. You start taking parts off, and what looks like a small amount of rust very quickly becomes a large bit of rust. So turns out that the rear sills and the front inner sill along the driver's side needed to be replaced, and there needed to be some welding done. So the guys went through the process of getting that done, and I am now today going to go up and see the car for the very first time since I put that car into them in September. It's been a long time. So I thought I would take you guys with me to come and have a look at the car and see the exceptional job that the guys at Panel Perfect have done. And ultimately to see my first impressions on how the car is now looking. Because other than a few pictures that I've been sent and a few videos, I don't know what it's like. I've not seen it in the flesh yet. So I'm really excited to not only see it for the first time, but to bring you along with me. So let's go and see the job that Panel Perfect have done and check out the car. Can't wait. That's me now here, outside Panel Perfect. Going to go see my Porsche for the first time since September. I can't wait to see how it's looking. I've heard fantastic things about the guys, and I'm really looking forward to see the final job that they have done. So let's pop in, catch up with Ian, and check out the car. Before we take a look at how the car turned out, we need to go back to the beginning. Because what the team at Panel Perfect uncovered wasn't just wear and tear. It was far worse than anyone had expected. As soon as the aero skirts came off, the truth was revealed. Hidden behind them was years, decades of trapped dirt, moisture and corrosion. The passenger side rear sill was already in bad shape, although the front inner sill on that side had survived reasonably well. But the driver's side told a very different story. The rear sill was severely corroded, and the front inner sill was even worse. 26 years of grime had worked its way inside the bodywork, slowly eating the car from the inside out. And as you're about to see, the inner driver's sill was completely gone. Honestly, if you're squeamish, this might be hard to watch. At this point, there was no saving the original metal. It all had to go. I started by contacting lads at LBL Panels, who fabricated a set of rear sills along with a wheel arch repair section. His turnaround was fast, and the quality was exactly what we needed for the job. Finding a front inner sill was a little bit more difficult though. Design 911 had replacements available, but at a price. In the end, my local Porsche dealership came through with a brand new section for under £170. When the new sills were first tacked into place, the fit was almost perfect. A small section inside the wheel arch still needed fabricated, but this was well within Panel Perfect's comfort zone. Even with a complete new front inner sill available, the team used only what was necessary, carefully repairing and reinforcing the driver's side. Compared to what came out, the difference was night and day. There was no chance this one was ever snapping off between your fingertips. With the new metal welded in, Ian and the team moved on to prep. Everything was sanded back and primed, ready for paint. This was about halfway through the process, and I'll be honest, it was tough to see. The car I loved was stripped apart, exposed, and looking worse than ever. But despite how it felt, I had complete faith in the team. The workmanship already spoke for itself. With the sills finished and the bodywork straightened and filled, attention turned to the remaining panels. The doors, the bumpers, and the bonnet. I'll let Ian explain just how much work went into getting these right, because it was far more involved than it first appeared.
So, let's step forward today, getting some of the panels on the primer. These will be primed in Novo 335 acrylic black primer. Going to go with black just for especially on your front end. You want quite a dark colour, so if you do get some stone chips in the future, the black isn't as noticeable as what the grey or the white would be. But yeah, this was the door that was done before. It was very ripply along the bottom here. So process of that is block the door back, skim it in glaze, and then block the door back again. And then obviously once they've been high builded, we'll block the high build back again to try and get the panels as straight as possible. But yeah, this was probably the door that needed the most work. This door was original, did have a few dents and stuff in it. Same process again on this one, but this one did have some slight surface corrosion on the top here that we've had to grind out. It was behind the rubber seal. But yeah, so we've ended up with both doors off, glass out, full stripped them. These are ready for primer. The bonnet was just badly stone chipped, had a lot of dents around this area, so same again. We've blocked all the factory paint off of it and filled it into the individual dents, and then we've glazed over the whole lot and then blocked the glaze back just to try and get it as straight as possible. The front bumper had a bit of damage on it as well. This bottom corner was cracked in two places and this chunk here was missing. But because these bumpers, they are not your usual PP plastic bumpers, they are resin filled plastic, so you cannot plastic weld them. As soon as you heat this, the resin comes to the surface and it doesn't fuse together. So these have all had to be re-repaired together with resin. But yeah, it's quite badly stone chipped on the bottom here, so we've took it back to bare plastic. And the benefits of that is it had already been painted before, so by the time you've got 2 layers of paint on this bottom and then our high build primer and paint on top, it's quite thick, it's quite brittle. So if you do get stone chips, this is your most common place to get stone chips. It'll come off in bigger chunks. Or the thinner the material is, the smaller chips you'll get in future. But yeah, the back bumper had quite a lot of work in it. It had a fairly hard hit here. It was cracked right between the number plates, lights and underneath. So same again, we've repaired them with resin at the back. I'll show you. That's the resin that goes on along the back. Filed along through the front within a groove, and then resin along the front as well to try and make it as strong as possible. We've had to heat the full bumper up and use our metal roller to try and roll the bumper back into shape, as it was quite out of shape. This one also had a split here on the corner. You can see where we've had to use the resin again to repair the split. The wings. This was the worst one for corrosion. So these panels will be primed separately because we're using different primer. This is acrylic high build. This will be Novo 305 epoxy. Just because we've had quite a lot of bare metal here and there's had corrosion in the past, so that'll seal that. These are all bare metal all the way along. This was the worst one. The other one isn't bad at all. So we'll hold off to get the rest of the shell ready to prime. And the skirts will be primed on their own because these are so flexy. These will need a flex ad that I've put into the flamer to stop them from cracking in the future. So the panel's ready to go, ready to get some paint on now. Channel's ready to go as well. Stone guard along the box cells. 3M sealer inside there that we welded on the house. Correct that. Same again on this side. Stone guarded up the arses. seal around the front here to match in the original.
When I came back to check on progress, I genuinely couldn't believe what I was seeing. The panels looked flawless. The rear bumper was perfectly straight. The bonnet was smooth and crease-free. And every single dent in the doors was gone. It didn't look repaired, it looked brand new. All that was left now was paint. Once everything went back on the car, the transformation was complete. And here it is. Right, so look, we've managed to sort, there used to be a big dent in there, and apparently what Ian was telling me was that cracked in between the two lights there, so it had a fairly large shunt in the back there. Didn't get the spoiler or the roof done, but I think with a good polish that'll come up. But yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed with the job that these guys have done here. It's just brought in just a new lease of life to the paintwork of this car. It is absolutely immaculate, and the paint just looks so vibrant now. The sills, what the guys have done, this was one of the sills that was fairly bad, but as you can see there with the spoiler, the skirts and stuff on them, it's just come up really well. This particular door was really dinged as well from car park dings, and as you can now see, there is just absolutely nothing along the side of there just now. The skirt as well had seen various signs, scrapes and chunks out of it and all that stuff over the years, and you just couldn't tell. Now, the car is looking absolutely amazing. What a difference it's made. On the front here, the stone chips that were along the front of it were just an absolute mess. It was practically white along the bottom there, and now you just can't tell at all. There's still a couple of things that the guys need to do. There's a clip that they need to fix, and there's some self-tapping screws that they need to put into the wheel arches there, but as you can tell, it is just absolutely night and day from what it was before. The paint is just absolutely gleaming. Even on the bonnet here, previously there was a big dent over there, a big horrible scrape there. There was various stone chips and stuff, and now it just looks absolutely brand new. What a difference the guys have made to it here. I can't wait to get it down to Ross, get it a little bit sort of polished up and a bit tidier, get the alloys back on it, and ultimately get it back on the road. Because yeah, I've missed it. Along here, on this side, there was some, again, bad rusting happening on the back arch there. I'll stick up some videos that Ian had sent over to me as he'd gone through and stripped all this off. But the worst part really was over here. The front inner sill was just an absolute mess. But I did manage to get a whole new one from Porsche themselves for less than 170 quid. Using my classic registered discount, I did manage to get a little bit of money off, and it was almost half the price of what you would pay for something from Design 911. And I'm so glad that I checked out the OPC before going anywhere else. So I definitely recommend always making sure that you check out your local Porsche dealership to see whether or not you can get things just ever so slightly cheaper than the likes of Design 911. But it's just looking fantastic. I'm so chuffed with how it's now looking. And as I said earlier, I can't wait to get it back on the road. It's looking amazing. What do you guys think of the job the Panel Perfect have done? I, for one, am pretty happy and satisfied with how it's looking. What a job is done here. Brilliant. There's Ian in the spray booth there. Unfortunately, he's a bit busy to be able to come over and give us a chat, but him and I have had a fairly extensive conversation over the course of the last few months, and he did say that as far as rust goes on a 996, although it looked bad, it wasn't the worst that he's ever encountered, and that ultimately the car, despite being 26 years old, is in fairly good shape. They've also done the inners here on the passenger side more so than this side. There's a little bit of rust starting to appear on the latch, but just like how shiny it is. Next up is to get it down to Ross, who's going to send it off to his seat guy to get that hole in the seat sorted, get that brought up, and get a little bit of PPF put along the bottom half of the car there, really just to try and protect it from the shitty Scottish weather that we have. I'm not planning on taking it out in the snow, but if I ever need to, it's good to know that the option is there if needs be. It is a four-wheel drive after all, that is why I went for the four-wheel drive one. But ideally, I don't want to potentially be putting it into a state where it's just going to get rusty again. Because the job has been phenomenal. It just looks so good. I'm so happy with the outcome. As I mentioned, the guys have done in here too. Oh, look, that's back on. Little bit of rust was appearing on the latch there, just the common areas that these cars suffer from. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to remove the cubby and I'm going to put in a GT3 style delete console for that and the transmission tunnel, but I'm not going to affect that one. What I'm going to do is I'm probably going to buy a second hand one and do that instead. I might even try the center console myself, see how I get on with it, sand it down and get the appropriate paint. But yeah, I'm absolutely over the moon with the job that these guys have done. What a difference it's made. Absolutely incredible work. The roof is clearly showing signs of scrapes and stuff, but guess what it is. Very rarely do people look at the roof, and likewise with the spoiler there. Excellent. What a difference. Wow, what a job those guys have done to that car. They have just given it a brand new lease of life. Incredibly thorough. Ian's communication throughout was just absolutely spot on. He's kept me up to date with absolutely everything that's been going on. It's taken a little bit longer than we originally anticipated, but a good job always does. So I'm just absolutely over the moon with how that paintwork has now turned out. You could not tell that it has ever had any issues with rust. Just the extent and quality of the work that the guys have done is just unreal. And I'm so glad that I took up those recommendations and took it to those guys, because they have done just such an amazing job. I'm over the moon with how it looks. And when I eventually start getting into a few shows and stuff next year, I'm going to be less embarrassed by the paint. It's actually going to stand out more than it ever did. It had the imperfections on it really let the car down, and I'm now probably going to be too scared to drive it just because of the extent of the work that the guys have done. Selling don't want to be driving it during the winter time, so hopefully the issues with my BMW are now sorted, but we'll wait with bated breath because it has been issue after issue. I might do another video on that, just outlining the trials and tribulations that I've had with that car recently. But as far as the Porsche goes, I'm just absolutely blown away and I can't wait to get it back. After this, I'm going to be catching up with Ross, who's going to go through the process of doing some detailing work, mainly lowering or putting on some PPF on the lower half of the car. So that is going to be the next stage. So stay tuned for that. And we'll catch up with Ross once he gets his opportunity to get his hands on the car. And at that point, it's going to be done. Maybe we'll get it down to Hardtech over the next year or so. Really, really give it the love that it deserves. And that's it. Wow. I'm absolutely blown away by the quality of the work that the guys at Panel Perfect have done. Ian, you've excelled yourself, mate. I am so glad that I listened to the recommendations I was given to go to you guys, because you've just done an incredibly thorough job. And I would definitely recommend anybody who is looking to get any bodywork or paintwork done to their car that are local to Dundee, or even just the east side of Scotland, I would thoroughly recommend that you guys go and see Ian. Not only is he an incredibly reasonably priced garage and body shop to go to, just the quality of their work speaks for itself. Absolutely over the moon with how that car has come together. You can see it in the videos yourself, just how well that car has come together now that it's had a little bit of love given to the bodywork. There's no more imperfections along the doors. There's no more rust, importantly. And ultimately, the paint has just a whole new lease of life and a vibrancy to it that it just didn't have before. And I am over the moon with the quality of work that the guys have done to that car. At this point, I really just want to get it back on the road and get out and enjoy it again. It's been so long. But as far as first impressions go, and seeing that car in the flesh, what a difference it's made. The ocean blue metallic paint that is on it is a lovely colour. And the guys have just done such a great job of getting that car back up to a factory standard. So, great job, guys. Thank you very much for all the work that you've done. Communication has been fantastic. You've kept me filled in every point of the journey. And ultimately, you've let me wander about your shop and take videos and pictures and stuff. So, again, I thank you very much. Next up is to get it down to Ross and get some detailing work done. He's going to put some PPF on the lower half. He's going to do the front bump bar and the lower half of the doors and the skirts and stuff, just to give it that extra layer of protection against stone chips and the harsh Scottish weather that we have over here. So that's going to be the next part that I'm going to go through and record. I'm going to spend a day with Ross going through, and he's going to talk us through the processes that he uses when detailing his cars. And I can't wait for that. So Ross, I'll be reaching out to you soon, mate, and we'll get that sorted out. Over the moon. Absolutely over the moon. So if you don't want to miss part 2, make sure to call shotgun by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and hitting that notification bell. Thanks for watching.